I took care of the blind Chumukin for 4 years. When he regained his sight, he wept as he held my sister in his arms. He said, "Yao Yao, I can finally be with you." When he mentioned me, his tone was indifferent and distant, as if talking about a stranger. Just a good friend who took care of me. I'm very grateful to her. Later, when I appeared at his wedding with another man, he, with red eyes, begged me to marry him. I snatched the bouquet from my sister's hands and threw it in his face. Filthy thing, do you think you're worthy? Chapter 1. Chumukin's eyes were healed, and I was the last to know. Excited, I ran to the hospital room. Before I even entered, I saw what was happening inside. He was holding my sister tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Yao Yao, my eyes are healed. I can finally be with you openly. Please, don't reject me." People around them were smiling, looking both excited and relieved. My dear sister Lily, with a flushed face, hesitated. "But Mukin, my sister, how can I take my sister's boyfriend? She's taken care of you for 4 years. Now that you've finally regained your sight, how sad would she be if she found out?" Lily's tone was pitiful, but I knew her eyes were not. Because she was looking directly at me, standing at the door. She had noticed me. A provocative smile curved her lips. Because the next second, Chumukin's icy voice sentenced my 4 years of companionship to death. "Wenyan? Lily, did you misunderstand my relationship with her too? We're just ordinary friends. She insisted on taking care of me for 4 years, I couldn't refuse. Lily, you know, I only feel gratitude towards her. Now that I've regained my sight, she deserves some credit. She can ask me for anything, except to expect my feelings for you. Lily, I only love you." His friends around them cheered. "Lily, just say yes to Mukin. He's waited for you for 4 years, not confessing his feelings to avoid burdening you. Yeah, Lily, we all know Mukin doesn't have any other thoughts about Wenyan. She's just a friend and a caretaker. To Mukin, you're the most important. Say yes. Say yes." Chumukin, like a young man in love for the first time, nervously looked at Lily. Lily kept her gaze on me then, with a triumphant look, fell into Chumukin's arms. Cheers erupted. In a corner where no one could see, Lily silently mouthed to me, "Sister, I won. Your 4 years worthless." Chapter 2. I didn't know how long I stood at the door until someone opened it and suddenly saw me standing there. "Wenyan, what are you doing here?" Chumukin's gaze instantly shot towards me, filled with vigilance. He subtly shielded Lily behind him. Hiding behind him, Lily, with teary eyes, whispered, "Sister, do you know everything? I'm sorry, sister. Mukin and I truly love each other. I can't persuade myself to give him up to you." As she spoke, tears fell. How pitiful she looked. Chumukin frowned deeply, turning his head to gently comfort Lily. Everyone silently stood on the opposite side of me. Their silent accusations whipped at me. It felt like I was the guilty one. Seeing Chumukin's gentle demeanor, I really felt like he was a different person from the one I'd known for 4 years. Whether it was him arrogantly approaching me after losing his sight, saying he was willing to be with me, or the temper tantrums he threw over his blindness over the 4 years. The Chumukin in front of me didn't seem like the same person. So, he knew how to be gentle. He just didn't want to be gentle to me. I pushed aside the people blocking my way and walked step by step towards Chumukin. Chumukin said, "Wenyan, you came at the right time. I don't want Lily to feel burdened being with me. You tell her, we're just good friends, and nothing happened between us, right?" Lily tugged at Chumukin's sleeve. "Mukin, don't make it hard for sister." I tilted my head and threw Chumukin's medical report in his face. "Good friends, my ass. Don't you have any shame?" Chumukin still shielded Lily. "Wenyan, don't act like a shrew and make me look down on you. There's nothing between us. Why do you have the right to criticize me and Lily?" I didn't answer him, just looked at Lily. "Lily, I'm curious. Chu Mucken regained his sight today. Did you also come back to life today? Lily looked puzzled, whispering. Sister, what do you mean? I chuckled softly. In 4 years I've never seen a trace of you. Today, Chu Mucken regains his sight and you appear. What? Did you die for 4 years because Chu Mucken was blind? Chu Mucken couldn't hold back any longer, raising his voice. Wenyin! How can you say that about Lily? She only couldn't bear to. Before he could finish, I interrupted him. It's fine to deceive others, but don't deceive yourself. Chu Mucken, taking care of you for 4 years, I might as well have raised a dog. Chu Mucken frowned and raised his hand to grab my arm, but I slapped it away. The slap echoed loudly in the quiet hospital room. Wenyin, how dare you treat me like this? I looked into his eyes, saying word by word. Actually, for years, if I had raised a dog, it would have been loyal by now. You're nothing but an ungrateful wolf. Their expressions were quite entertaining, seemingly not expecting me to speak so harshly to Chu Mucken. I turned around and walked away after speaking, with Chu Mucken chasing after me. As he caught up, I shut the hospital room door. Inside, I heard Chu Mucken's muffled grunt and Lily's exclamation. He probably got hit by the door. Serves him right. Chapter 3. Chu Mucken made a high-profile return, announcing that he was taking over the Chu family again and publicly declaring his relationship with Lily. I became the laughingstock of the circle. But it didn't matter. I was always a topic of gossip in the circle. Thanks to my biological father, Mr. Su Zhen, who played a good hand at favoring the concubine and neglecting the wife, bringing the mistress into the house, which eventually led to my already sickly mother's death. Although I remained in the Su family, my status was even lower than that of a dog in the Su family. At the worst times, Lily left me, injured by a trap, alone in the pouring rain in the deep mountains, while she went back to enjoy the happiness of being a family of 3. She said, Sister, now in the Su family, you're the most redundant one. So why don't you be sensible and hurry up and die? I hope that when I find you tomorrow, you're already dead. I called for help in the rain, receiving no response, falling into despair. It was at that time that Chu Mucken appeared. He was exhausted himself, but he didn't abandon me, dragging me along all night until we found a way out. Young people always develop feelings for heroes who descend from the heavens. I was no exception. But upon exiting, Chu Mucken realized that the person he saved was the sister of the girl he dreamed of killing. Lily didn't speak to him for over a year because of this. I wasn't clear about it and sometimes followed him. Finally, once he couldn't bear it, he said, Wenyin, I really regret saving you. I wish you had died. Then Lily wouldn't ignore me. It was then that I realized he hated me. After Chu Mucken lost his sight unexpectedly, Lily quickly disappeared from the country to avoid him, and I stepped in to take up the burden. Everyone said I was self-degrading. I laughed it off. It was repayment. Now the debt was paid. Those who can abandon me are never worth my sorrow. I understood this since my father. Chapter 4. After Lily left, no one openly or secretly spread bad rumors about me, so I was relatively at peace. The day we met again after 4 years, she immediately sent me a message. Sister, have you enjoyed these 4 years of peace? The good days are over. At the banquet, she passed by me and without warning, grabbed my wine glass and splashed it on her face. Ah, sister. I wasn't surprised at all. The wine mixed with her tears fell, and people around started pointing fingers. Lily tearfully said, Sister, I know you hate me for taking Mucken as soon as I came back, but I really love him. Forgive me for not giving him to you. Sister, you can splash another glass of wine on me. I don't mind, really. Sister, it doesn't matter how much you splash me with wine, as long as you forgive me, we can still be good sisters, okay? I stood leisurely, watching her poor performance. Chu Mucken rushed over. His tie and tie clip were mismatched, and his suit was wrinkled. Wenyin! Why are you bullying Lily again? Don't you know she came today to apologize to you? Why did you splash her with wine? Do you believe? I interrupted his long speech. You're wrong. Wrong about what? I picked up a glass of wine from the waiter's tray. I wasn't the one who splashed the last glass. This one is. I mercilessly splashed the wine on Lily's face. She looked shocked and choked on several mouthfuls. Chu Muckin's eyes widened in anger as he grabbed my wrist. Wenyin! His voice rose. I used my other hand to pick up another glass of wine. This glass is for you. Just consider it a toast and a lock. Neither of you should go out and harm others anymore. Chu Muckin's words stopped abruptly, because the wine had splashed on his face. There was an outcry from the crowd. I squatted down and looked at Lily. It's 2023, sister, and you're still using the old CEO romance novel trope? Really garbage. Chapter 5. I discovered that Chu Muckin seemed to be quite pathetic. At first, there were no calls. After I splashed him with wine and scolded him, the calls started coming one after another. In recent days, Chu Muckin's calls came incessantly. Annoyed, I answered one of his persistent calls. Wenyin, where did you put my tie? And the watch that Lily gave me, are you jealous of Lily and threw it away? Wenyin, are you listening? I'm telling you. Holding the phone, I felt irritated. Chu Muckin, did your brain go bad after your eyes recovered? Can't you take care of yourself? Don't you have eyes? Can't you look for it yourself? Lily's things? I wouldn't even give them to a dog. Tell her to stop being so self-absorbed. Is she next to you? Put her on speaker so she can hear this. On the other end of the line, I heard Lily sobbing. Sister, I really consider you my sister now. I was immature before, but do you still hate me, sister? Yes, even talking to you feels like a waste of my life. Just as Chu Muckin was about to speak, I hung up the call decisively and blocked all his contacts. I looked at the email on my computer, tapping my fingers on the desk, feeling quite pleased. I sent an email. Pleasure working with you. May we both achieve our desires. After many years, Lily was still as foolish as ever. Always relying on tears to conquer men. Back then, she ran away without a care, and now she returns with the same carelessness, leaving a mess abroad, thinking that escaping would solve everything. 4 years were enough to change everything. Mr. Su Zhen once warned me that everything in the Su family would be left to Lily, and I shouldn't harbor any unrealistic hopes. My mother left me with one piece of advice. If you want something, fight for it yourself. Never rely on others. Of course, I would fight for it myself. Between Chu Muckin and me, it was never about him giving me a chance. It was about me giving him a chance. He didn't want it. Then he can be destroyed along with Lily. Chapter 6. As soon as I entered the door, a porcelain cup shattered at my feet. You wretched girl! You still know how to come back. How did you treat your sister? Get over here and apologize to your sister. Seeing Mr. Su Zhen's furious demeanor, one would think I had abused Lily. Lily was sobbing beside him. Dad, please don't treat sister like this. Sister might be in a bad mood because Muckin and I are together. I understand, Dad. Mr. Su Zhen snorted. Now that Muckin's eyes are healed, his future is bright. How can she be worthy? Naturally, my most proud daughter can be the future mistress of the Chu family. Wenyin, are you deaf? Why are you still standing there? Come over and apologize to Lily. I nodded slowly and walked towards Lily. Lily looked at me with a victorious posture, head held high. I leaned close to her ear. You're so complacent. Have you dealt with everything abroad? You're almost 30. How come only your hair grows and not your brain? Lily's face turned pale instantly. How do you know? I smiled, enjoying her expression. If I were you, I'd be thinking about what to do next instead of asking questions, dear sister. Lily, pale-faced, collapsed onto the sofa, scaring Mr. Su Zhen, who came over to push me away. I narrowly dodged. I looked at him. I hope you won't regret your choice today, Dad. Mr. Su then spat at me. You're not even worth a strand of Lily's hair. Chapter 7. Lily might be foolish, but she's also ruthless. For instance, I didn't know where to run as I faced the knife-wielding thug in front of me. He sneered and charged at me. At the critical moment, someone choked him from behind. After the thug was knocked unconscious, I saw the man's face clearly. After telling his assistant to call the police, he walked towards me. The feeling of surviving a disaster made me relax, my head dizzy, and I almost couldn't stand. Just before I fell, I landed in a chest that smelled of northern snow pine. Miss Su, do you trust me that much? With little strength, I hit him lightly. Stop talking. Take me away. Who knew if Lily had hired more thugs? The man's deep, clear voice sounded in my ear. With pleasure, Miss Su. He lifted me in his arms, but I suddenly heard a gloomy male voice. Wenyan, who is he? You found someone else so quickly after leaving me? I really underestimated you. You really are a fickle woman. Just as I was about to say something, the man holding me clicked his tongue. There's a dog barking. Then he started walking away. During this time, Chu Mucken probably tried to stop him. But he was knocked down with one hand, unable to get up from the ground. I closed my eyes and frowned. Fool! Chu Mucken wanted to argue but didn't know where to start. Who cares? Chapter 8. Chu Mucken was blind for 4 years. After returning to the Chu family, he naturally took back everything that belonged to him. He didn't care who had saved the Chu family's declining business during those 4 years. He enjoyed it all without guilt. But someone didn't want him to rest easy. I was one, and there was another. Ethan, you've had it rough, working for nothing for 4 years. He was relentless, smiling brightly. Miss Su, we're in the same boat. At that time, we were walking towards the Chu family banquet, and I held his arm. On the surface, we looked harmonious, but we were quietly mocking each other. As soon as we entered the hall, I saw the furious Chu Mucken. Lily was beside him, looking complicated. Chu Mucken was held back by Mrs. Chu to keep from rushing over. When Ethan and I got closer, he coldly said, Wenyan, you didn't choose well for your next partner. How did you end up with my dad's illegitimate son? Following him, do you think you'll gain anything? Don't dream. An illegitimate son is still an illegitimate son, something that can't be shown in public. I smiled back. As far as I know, Ethan's mother was Mr. Chu's first love. As for the secrets within, why don't we let Mrs. Chu tell us? I raised my voice, attracting the attention of those around us. Mrs. Chu, embarrassed, frowned and quickly left. Moreover, don't you think your last words better describe the person beside you? Lily's face turned red. I smiled and tilted my head, and Ethan suddenly adjusted my hair. He was much taller than me, so I had to look up at him. He was indeed handsome. But we were the same kind of people, not suitable as companions, only as partners. I had no special feelings for him. He was just a sharp thorn to drive into Chu Mucken's heart. If the man beside me wasn't Ethan, Chu Mucken wouldn't have lost control like this. His slender fingers brushed my cheek. Your hair is messy, Wenyan. Chu Mucken's expression turned icy. He tightly clenched his fists. Seeing the situation, Lily quickly grabbed his hand. But Chu Mucken shook her off roughly. Brother Mucken. Chu Mucken's eyes were red as he stared at me. Wenyan, I really misjudged you. I thought you would always love me. Ethan frowned and pulled me further away from Chu Mucken. Wenyan, we need to stay away from this person. You know, scientific research shows that idiocy is contagious. Look at the woman beside him, she's already showing signs. Chu Mucken, not known for his sharp tongue, did not know how to retort. He punched the table, failing to break the plates but injuring his hand with the cutlery. Lily, trying to protect him, got hurt as well, ending up in a more embarrassing state than Chumukin. See, I told you idiocy is contagious. Chapter 9. I wasn't surprised at all by Chumukin's regret. At this moment, I was at home and he was outside. Wenyan, let me in. Wenyan, I know you're just mad at me. Wenyan, can we talk this out? He prattled on for ages, and when it started raining, he began playing the pity card. I watched his miserable display for a long time before finally opening the door. Wenyan, will you talk to me? I crossed my arms and looked at him. What is it? Are you breaking up with Lily? He hesitated for a moment. Wenyan, you know that Father Su values Lily the most. The Su family will be handed over to her in the future. Being with her maximizes the benefits for both families. Wenyan, believe me, I will be good to you. Even if I marry Lily, my heart will still be with you. I've thought it through. I love you. With her, it's just the excitement of reuniting after a long time. Wenyan, you believe me, right? As Chumukin spoke, he seemed to touch himself with his words and opened his arms to rush toward me. I sidestepped, and he fell to the ground. He got up awkwardly. I looked at him. Have you chosen the venue for your wedding with Lily? He shook his head. Perfect. Hold it in country. Isn't it a great place for weddings? I happen to want to take a vacation. As a member of the Su family, I would naturally attend their wedding. Chumukin thought I had agreed to his shameless proposal and rushed over joyfully. I blocked him with a clothes drying rod. Do you realize you look like a pervert right now? Chumukin looked a bit wounded. Wenyan, you wouldn't have said that to me before. I turned away in disgust. En country, did you get that? He nodded eagerly, looking pitiful. I felt even more disgusted and pushed him out the door. Even as he left, Chumukin didn't forget to threaten me. Wenyan, I know you have your own ambitions. Fashion design, right? The Chu family has many connections in that field. If you agree to be with me, I will spare no effort to help you. Of course, if you refuse, I can't guarantee I won't do something drastic in anger. Chumukin was somewhat clever, knowing where to strike. But it was inconsequential. As soon as the door closed, I was pulled into an embrace from behind. Ethan, I must remind you to keep your distance. He chuckled softly in my ear. Did the fish take the bait? I smirked. Naturally. Such a foolish fish is easily caught. Chapter 10. No one knew en country better than Lily. After Chumukin proposed the idea, Lily couldn't sit still. That day, I happened to be at the Su family home and witnessed Lily going crazy, tearing up all the wedding plans for en country. But Chumukin was adamant. No matter how much Lily and Su Zhen tried to persuade him, he refused to change the plan. If you don't agree, then there will be no wedding. After saying this, Chumukin even gave me what he thought was a deeply affectionate look. It made my stomach churn. Lily really had no brains. Even after arriving in en country with trepidation, she still thought that getting rid of me would keep her secrets safe. Once again, I encountered danger on the streets of en country. The security in en country was somewhat chaotic, with incidents like this being commonplace. So Lily dared to act recklessly. This time, she stood in front of me, smugly saying, "Sister, you went to great lengths to bring us all to en country. Did you not consider whether you have the ability to escape? Sister, it's a pity you can't be buried back home with our mother. To die in a foreign land, how pitiful. Truly heart-wrenching." I calmly took a full-face photo of Lily and sent it to an unknown number. The reply was immediate. An okay hand gesture. Chapter 11. I put my phone away and looked at the circle of thugs. What, is sister wondering if she can take on this group? I shook my head. Fistfights are so boring. While guns are banned in China, they aren't here. 4 years were enough for me to learn many things. After a few gunshots, the thugs fell to the ground. As I walked past the pale-faced Lily, I patted her on the shoulder. It's a pity you don't have a brain, not knowing that revenge is best served cold. I wouldn't harm her here. Lily was the type who deserved neither a quick end nor an easy life. She deserved to be in a living hell. After returning, I went to see Suzanne. I showed him some interesting things. Suzanne was so enraged that he could barely breathe. Pointing at me, he stammered for a long time. Is this how you treat your sister? Are you trying to harm her? I folded his hand back. Mr. Suzanne must be senile. My mother only gave birth to me. I have no sister. Mr. Sue, make your decision quickly. There's no time for hesitation. After I left, Suzanne couldn't catch his breath and fainted on the sofa. Chapter 12. At the wedding, I arrived arm in arm with Ethan, dressed to the nines. Chu Muckin stood on stage, looking spirited, but his eyes were fixed on me. Ethan, ever perceptive, blocked Chu Muckin's line of sight. Chu Muckin clenched his fists, furious but unable to show it. Miss Sue, he looks like he can't stand me but can't do anything about it. Ethan whispered in my ear, making it tickle. I pushed him away. Behave yourself. And it's not just like, he looks like he wants to kill you. Ethan smiled nonchalantly. Too bad he won't have the energy to play with me after today. The wedding was supposed to start, but the bride was nowhere to be seen. Chu Muckin's face was almost stiff from smiling. He held back his anger, sending people to check multiple times. Finally, Lily staggered in, looking disheveled. Wearing her wedding dress, she stumbled, almost falling several times. Chu Muckin, being prideful, was already struggling to maintain his smile. Lily ignored his displeasure. She kept muttering. He's here, he's here. How did he find me? Didn't I send someone to get rid of him? What do I do? What do I do? Seeing Chu Muckin, she rushed to him like a drowning person grabbing a lifeline. Muckin, you'll save me, right? Save me, I'm scared. Whispers spread among the guests, speculating on what had happened. Chu Muckin was confused and angry but maintained a facade of calm. He helped Lily up, trying to comfort her despite his anger. Lily, don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'll protect you. Don't be scared. Chu Muckin's promise seemed to calm her down. She looked at me with red eyes. Wenyan, you can't win against me. I have Muckin. I'm not afraid. You've lost, you've lost. I propped my chin on my hand, watching Lily mockingly. Just seeing a bit of news made her this scared. How would she handle what's next? As for Chu Muckin, he probably still liked Lily. But once the unreachable white moonlight is within reach, it turns into a grain of rice stuck to your clothes. So Chu Muckin couldn't let go of her but also wanted to reconcile with me. Men can be so pathetic sometimes. I began to wonder how he'd react when he found out what Lily had been up to in country for the past 4 years. Chapter 13. The wedding proceeded as usual, but Suzanne, who was supposed to be on stage, sat silently, confusing everyone. The host quickly smoothed things over, saying Mr. Sue was deeply moved and needed time to compose himself. I glanced at Suzanne's tightly clenched hands and smiled. Indeed, deeply moved. Let's watch a touching recap of Mr. Chu Muckin and Miss Lily's sweet moments. The big screen lit up, causing an uproar. Facing away from the screen, Chu Muckin didn't react at first, looking confused. But seeing my appreciative gaze, he turned around abruptly, his expression cracking. The footage was truly scandalous. The female lead was Lily, and the male leads were numerous. These people played quite wildly. Although the key areas were censored, it was still nauseating. Not just that, but there were also records of Lily's multiple terminations in country. The footage ended with a close-up of a handsome man's profile. Lily screamed. That's not me. Turn it off. Turn it off. The footage seemed to remind Lily of her nightmarish experiences, destabilizing her mental state. She began screaming in the hall. Chu Muckin, losing face, yanked Lily up from the ground. Enough! You shameless woman! You've been deceiving me! Lily tried to explain, but he flung her away. Chu Mucken took a deep breath, straightened his clothes, and forced a smile. He walked off stage and approached me. Chu Mucken displayed the diamond ring in front of me, gazing at me with affection. Wenyan, if this was your goal, congratulations, you've achieved it. I won't marry Lily. I'll marry you, okay? Wenyan, will you marry me? Behind him, Lily screamed. No. He whispered to me. Wenyan, please say yes. Isn't this what you wanted? Marry me, and I can give you everything you want. If you want the Su family, I'll help you get it. This wedding must go on. Chu Mucken must have been confident, thinking I would agree. Ethan clicked his tongue. I said nothing, looking at Chu Mucken, then walked toward the stage. Chu Mucken followed, relieved. Wenyan, I know you were with Ethan to make me jealous. You still love me, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have planned all this just to marry me, right? Someone in the crowd mocked me. I knew she'd agree. She's just a dog at Chu Mucken's beck and call. Disgusting. She'll stand on a stage with Lily's name on it. Shameless. I walked up to Lily, who looked ready to kill me. I took the bouquet from her hand. Turning around, I said, Sorry, but this wedding isn't happening today. I don't need you to give me what I want. As for you. The bouquet was fresh, with thorns on the stems. Without hesitation, I threw it at Chu Mucken's face. The thorns left numerous cuts on his face. Chu Mucken cried out in pain. Filthy thing, do you think you're worthy? Chapter 14. Su Wenyan. Are you insane? Chu Mucken angrily removed the bouquet, blood trickling down. I approached him, smiling. Lily won't have it easy today. Do you think you can escape? Chu Mucken didn't believe me. What can you do to me? You're just a powerless woman. I glanced at the door. Mr. Mu, have you seen enough? Hearing the surname, Lily fainted from fear. As soon as I finished speaking, a group of armed men in uniform stormed the hall. Chu Mucken was shocked. Who are you people? How dare you barge in here? A man stepped out of the shadows and walked to the stage. Someone recognized his profile from the footage. Isn't that the man from the video? That's Mu Lindsay, head of N-country's largest multinational conglomerate. Chu Mucken blocked Mu Lindsay's path, demanding to know who he was. Mu Lindsay kicked him aside. Mu Lindsay stood over Lily, smiling menacingly. Even I felt a chill. I didn't know him well, but one thing was certain. Mu Lindsay was a complete psychopath. Little cat, you're so disobedient. Mu Lindsay stepped on Lily's wrist, waking her up from the pain. But the sight of Mu Lindsay was more terrifying than physical pain. Lily screamed and tried to run. Mu Lindsay grabbed her by the neck. Little cat, maybe I shouldn't have let you keep your claws. They've grown too long, daring to defy me. Trying to escape, trying to kill me, hum? Lily, her face red from being choked, could only shake her head. Let's see what gives you such confidence. Mu Lindsay's gaze swept the hall, landing on Suzanne. He pointed lightly. Is it him, my little cat? Suzanne shuddered and looked up. Lily, hopeful, cried. Dad, save me! Dad! He stood up shakily and bowed to Mu Lindsay. I'm sorry, Mr. Mu, as of last night, I've severed ties with Lily. All my assets are now under my daughter Su Wenyan's name, having no relation to Lily. Lily's hope faded. Mu Lindsay nodded in satisfaction. Then he pointed to Chu Mucken. Is it him? Chu Mucken spat out blood and stood up. He staggered towards Mu Lindsay. Lily's hope rekindled. Mucken. But before he could get close, Mu Lindsay's men grabbed his hair. They smashed his head against the wall several times. When they let go, his forehead was a bloody mess. Mr. and Mrs. Chu, watching from the stage, were frantic but surrounded by black-clad men, unable to move. This is illegal. How dare you? This was why I lured them to Country. Moo Lindsay smiled indifferently. In Country, no one dares to mention the law to me. Moo Lindsay forced Lily to look at him. Little cat, do you agree? Lily's tears wouldn't stop. Moo Lindsay grew impatient. Didn't I say I don't like it when you cry? Did you forget? Lily hurriedly wiped her tears, forcing a smile uglier than crying. I watched coldly. Suddenly, Moo Lindsay's gaze shifted to me. Chapter 15. Moo Lindsay smirked. This little cat is too disobedient. I wonder, would it have been more interesting if I had chosen you, Wenyin? Ethan looked at me puzzled. You knew him? I didn't answer. I looked at Moo Lindsay. Mr. Moo, you're joking. Moo Lindsay shrugged indifferently. Lily's expression changed drastically. Suddenly, I remembered the scene when I first met him. Back then, I was almost assaulted by Lily's thugs. Someone saved me, and I was immensely grateful. Naively, I thought I had found a savior, but he turned out to be a bigger scumbag than Chumukin. He took me back, looking at me with malicious eyes. It's been a while since I saw such a pretty cat. I felt like I had fallen into an ice cellar. When I tried to call for help, Moo Lindsay found out and took my phone. He looked through my photos with interest, stopping suddenly. This one looks even better, more tempting to bully. That was the beginning of my malicious intent. Chapter 16. I watched as Moo Lindsay's men dragged Chumukin out the door, while Moo Lindsay dragged Lily by her hair. Chumukin looked at me, unwilling to accept it. Why? Wenyin, don't you love me? Why? Because you deserve it. But you probably won't get rid of easily. The Moo family enjoys tormenting people. I watched the light in Chumukin's eyes fade. Mr. and Mrs. Chu sat in a daze, not understanding how things had come to this. Ethan went to play the good son, comforting Mr. Chu. I looked at Suzanne, feeling very satisfied. This grand game was over. Revenge is best served cold. This phrase never fails. Just as my mother said, I fought for everything I wanted and sent those who wronged me to their own personal hell. From now on, my life would have no Lily, no Chumukin. The life belonging to Wenyin was just beginning.